Hi there. So I bought a few things yesterday. Um, I had the chance yesterday to drive to a few different parts of the city that I'm usually not in because of work. But so two places. Actually, I went to how many places? I went to one, two, three, four places. One, two, yeah, four places, but only found things in two of them. So look at these first two. Where are they? These two. So I got these two at a record store called Flying Out, which if you're in Auckland, you maybe know it. It's on Pitt Street, which is just up by the K Road end of Pitt Street, and that's a music store, a record store that is new stuff. It's not a secondhand shop, but they have a small, like it's mostly vinyl. I assume they have some secondhand vinyl as well. I don't look at the records, but the CDs, they have a small CD section and a even smaller secondhand CD. I guess half of a shelf, but they had some okay stuff there and not bad prices either. So first one I got here is Death Cab for Cutie, the photo album. So this was from 2001. It's one of their earlier records. So you don't actually tend to see their early stuff from Death Cab for Cutie around. If you do see anything by them, it tends to be plans or narrow stairs, codes and keys, things like that, kind of their mid era. So yeah, I was kind of surprised and happy to see this, and a pretty good price as well, $5, in very good condition, in basically what do you call it, as new. Um, I haven't listened to most of the songs on this album, but the one that I have, well, actually a few of them I have, but the one that I really like, and I've made one of the very first Death Cab for Cutie songs I ever heard, I downloaded, I remember back in 2006, I was on my iPod, is track 3, We Laugh Indoors. Um, that's a cool song. So yeah, that's first. Second is this one here, DJ Spooky. DJ Spooky is a name I've heard and read a lot over the last 20 years. And I've heard other artists cite him as an influence, and he's written on lists of best albums and whatnot. But I don't think I've ever actually heard anything done by DJ Spooky. I don't actually know much about it. I don't know if he's American or British or some other nationality, but I thought I'd give this a try because $2. That is a pretty awesome price. $2 in a in a record store. Like I said, you can easily find things for $2 in a secondhand op shop, secondhand store, charity store, whatever you want to call it, Goodwill store. But in an actual dedicated record store selling new music, their secondhand stuff tends to be a bit more expensive. So $2 is an absolute bargain. Maybe that's him there, I assume. Like the Two Towers, I think, because this is from 1999. What's the label? Outpost, I think it says. Anyway, I'll have a listen to that because I really have no idea on what end of the DJ spectrum he lands on. I assume it's more on the hip hop end, like on the kind of a DJ Shadow type end, as opposed to more ambient type stuff. But anyway, then I went somewhere else and looked at a few secondhand stores, as in charity stores. Two of them had nothing, and one of them had a few things, and these were $1 each. You can see all of them got the dollar price tag. First one here is the U2 compilation 1990 to 2000. I already have. Actually, I have a look. Might be over here. Um, I already have the U2 best of 1980 to 1990. So this is the companion compilation. And I have all the albums of 1990 to 2000, which would be Achtung Baby, Zooropa, Passengers, Pop, and I guess All That You Can't Leave Behind. Or actually, I don't have All That You Can't Leave Behind, but that's through not because I can't find it, it's because I don't want it. But I have. But the reason I got this is because this has a few tracks that you don't always can't always find other places. One in particular, but there you can see track 14. It's got the new mix of Numb. There are a few different mixes of the track Numb. Numb is on Zooropa. The first time I ever heard Numb was one of the remixes. It wasn't the album mix. So yeah, but the main one I want to get for is track 4, Electrical Storm, which is a new song, and that says here the William Orbit mix. I like that song, and it's one of the very few U2 songs post about 2000, from All That You Can't Leave Behind onwards, that I actually like, because most of the stuff they did after or from that album onwards, I just went and got my thing so I could look. Okay, so All That You Can't Leave Behind 2000, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb 2004, No Line on the Horizon 2009. Those 3 albums, I can't stand them. And I should say I can't stand what I've heard in them because I haven't listened to them in depth. But anything that was released as a single or got played, that I heard out and about, I just thought it was boring, and I don't know, just didn't hit me at all. And this is coming from someone who is a U2 fan. I like U2. I particularly like Achtung Baby, Zooropa, and Passengers. That kind of 91 to about 96. Pop, okay. Obviously, the stuff they did in the 1980s is whatever you think of it, and some of it is maybe a bit overplayed at this point, but you can't deny that they are, they will go down as classic songs. They're part of the 20th century pop canon, aren't they? But yeah, everything they did from 2000 onwards. Now, the last 3, Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience, and Songs of Surrender, I haven't heard anything from them, so I can't comment on those. One of them actually got quite a good review, I saw. I think it was Songs of Experience. Got a very good write-up in a magazine I was reading. So, but in saying that, All That You Can't Leave Behind got a good write-up as well. They got like 4 or 5-star reviews, I remember, and I think that's boring dross. So anyway, I got that. And like I said, the main reason is because that song Electrical Storm, that's not on any of their other albums. I think there's a few different mixes of this. This is the William Orbit mix. But yeah, I like that song. Next, we have an album by Boston. What's it called? Don't Look Back. I don't know anything about Boston beyond More Than a Feeling. So I don't know what this is like. 45. 45, is that $45? Jesus. It came out in 1991, so it was a 1978 album pressed onto CD in 1991. No, that can't be $45. What's R? 45R, including VAT. Okay, VAT, that's value added tax. That's a British thing, isn't it? RNRB. Other countries have VAT as well, though. It's not. What's Rand? Actually, hang on. No, it's not going to say on here, is it? Wow, this looks like brand new. Look at that CD. That looks like it's never been touched. When these CDs, the kind of, what would you call that? Reflective, without color coatings on them. As soon as you touch them, they get smudged. They show up everything on them because they're like mirrors. That looks like a human hand has never touched it. It is absolutely pristine. And then look at the same thing. Hang on. Same thing here. Look at the corners of the booklet. Square. Absolutely. You can't. I'm not really showing it. I'm taking it out. Maybe I'm going to. But they're absolutely. Over time, especially something from 1991, they're going to get blunted. The reason I took this out is I want to see if it says where it was pressed. No, there's nothing on here. What does it say on here? There, I was right. Hang on, you can't see. Am I showing it? There, see? Made in RSA. Yeah, RSA would be Republic of South Africa. That's what I thought. Rand. The reason why I jumped to Rand when I saw 45R is because I bought this in a part of my city. Um, I guess it doesn't matter what I say, but it's in Browns Bay, or the East Coast bays of the North Shore of Auckland. A lot of South Africans live there. A lot of South Africans immigrated to not a lot. Some South Africans immigrated to New Zealand in the 1990s. There was like, what would you call it, white flight, I guess, after apartheid was dismantled and there was the free elections in South Africa in 1994, and Nelson Mandela and what is it, the ANC were elected to power. A lot of the white minority, Afrikaners and English, left South Africa, and there's a lot of things we could say about that, I guess, um, but we won't. But and what I mean by that is that yeah, yeah. How can actually no. I'm just gonna dig myself into a corner if I talk about but well, for whatever this CD was purchased in the Republic of South Africa in 1991. So the dying days of apartheid. This was purchased and transported to New Zealand by I assume an immigrant, and then sold, well, not sold, donated to a charity shop about some years later in 2023. But yeah, like I said, I don't know anything about Boston. So what else have I got here? Brooke Fraser, Albertine Deluxe Edition. If you're not from New Zealand, you probably don't know who Brooke Fraser is. Brooke Fraser is a, how would you describe it, singer-songwriter type artist, I guess, with Christian leanings. Her early albums are not explicitly Christian, but I think subsequently she has gone, like, I think she won the Grammy in 2017 for Best Christian Release or Best Christian Songwriter or something like that. She was always what would you call it, outwardly, no, that sounds like it's a, she always like stated her Christianity. It was never a secret, but the songs, if you listen to her first few albums, I'm sure you could read into it different parts that she's talking about Jesus or God or whatever, but they, at the same time, they were played on mainstream radio and on TV and stuff here. Um, but this is her third album, second or third album, Albertine, and I've always liked this album. I've actually owned it before. I still own it. I only have the disc though. I don't have the case, and also I don't have the deluxe edition. But I saw this, well, just yesterday when I was looking at it. The deluxe edition really only entails a live disc, which I've said my opinion before about live tracks added to albums as deluxe or bonuses. Don't bother, record companies. Who gives a shit about live tracks? I really, I guess I see one of them here as The Sound of Silence, so the Simon and Garfunkel song. So you could argue, well, that's kind of a cover version that she probably hasn't recorded anywhere else, and that's your only, okay. In that case, I can understand. Like for example, I remember there was a, on some Oasis, something I own of Oasis has a bonus track of a live rendition of "I Am the Walrus," which again, that's something a little bit different. But if it's just live versions of the same songs, of the songs from this album or the previous albums, it's like, why would I want to hear? Why do I want to hear the same song but worse? Usually, like very, very, very rarely do you hear a live version and think, "Oh, this adds something to the song. I like this version as much or more than the studio recorded version." I know there are some live albums that are considered classics, like Kiss Alive. Is it Alive 2 or Alive 3? Or that Peter Frampton live album, or I think there's a Rolling Stones was a Get Your Ya-Ya's Out live album. or the band, that last concert they did, the last waltz. That's not really live though, because that's recorded in like a kind of like a sound studio, sound stage type. It's not like outside at a stadium or anything. Anyway, um, yeah. What was I going to say about Bit? Oh, I was going to say Bic wrong. Brooke Fraser. Um, yeah, I guess there's not much I can say. That song, I like the song, the song of the name of the album, Albertine. So she wrote that about her trip to Rwanda. So she went to Rwanda, I think, as an ambassador for World Vision, which is a Christian charity or aid organization. And I always like the words of that song. So I think she meets someone called Albertine who survived the Rwanda genocide, and she's kind of talking about meeting that person. Albertine is a female or male name. And in the chorus, she's like explicitly states, well, she says Rwanda. That's right. It's kind of a strange chorus. She just says Rwanda. Now that I have seen, I am responsible. Faith without deeds is dead. Which, wherever you fall on religion and feelings about Christianity and whatnot, I think that's a nice thought or a nice line. Now that I have seen, so she went to Rwanda, she saw what she saw there. I guess, anywhere in Africa, well, particularly Rwanda, because Rwanda, like I said, endured a pretty horrific genocide in the mid 90s, and that's going to have lasting impacts on the country. Now that I've seen, I am responsible. So she feels some responsibility because she's seen what she saw. Faith without deeds is dead. So having faith in God is not enough. You have to do things. You've got to do actions. If you just have faith without deeds, then it's nothing. Anyone can say, I believe in God, but if you don't do anything to show that, then what's the use? I think that's what she's saying. But yeah, Brooke Fraser. Yeah, I recommend her first couple of albums. They're worth a listen. Just kind of like, she's got a nice voice, a nice soothing voice. I think she's a good songwriter. Last one was a bit of coincidence. So if you watched, which you probably didn't, but I did a video recently, just earlier this week, I think, about Martika. Martika's first album, her debut album, the one with Toy Soldiers, and I talked about her and her career. And just by coincidence, serendipity, what do I find? Martika's second album, Martika's Kitchen. I've never seen this around before. Although it actually might have been around, I just didn't notice. Maybe it's because she's in my mind because I just talked about her. But I certainly haven't noticed it before. And I don't think it's sold as much as her debut album. So yeah, I have no idea what this is going to sound like. If there's an evolution of sound, this is 1991. So I talked a lot in the other video about that sound from the late 80s, 87 to 89, and how it's so recognizable and kind of it dates it to that time period in a good and bad way. But this is 91, so this is a bit past that. So I'm going to be interested to hear how her sound has evolved. She also worked with Prince on one or two tracks on this. I'm not sure which songs. I'll actually say, yeah. Oh, there, track 9 says Prince. Was it 10? Sorry, 10. Don't Say You Love Me, Martika and Prince. Anything else with Prince? No. Oh, yes, sorry. Track 3, Love Thy Will Be Done. Actually, I think I've heard that, Love Thy Will Be Done. Martika and Prince. Oh, and track 2, Spirit, Martika and Prince. And track 1 is by Prince only. Okay, so there's lots of stuff by Prince. So Prince worked with quite a few, well, not quite a few. He worked with a few pop stars back in that period. He wrote "Nothing Compares to You" by Sinead O'Connor. So yeah, he he did that, didn't he? So yeah, very surprised and kind of a big coincidence or serendipitous to find this out just a couple of days after talking about her first album. Anyway, that's what I got. 1, 2, 3, 4 for $1 each from the secondhand store, and $2 for DJ Spooky, and $5 for Death Cab for Cutie. So what's that? 7, 8, 9, 10, $11 for 6 CDs. That's pretty good. Just under $2 a piece if we average it out. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching.